Hello again, and it's time for another project. Today we're going to do some scroll saw work on this little angel here. Basically, we're going to remove all the inner sections, so we are just left with the black lines. So a nice little fragile piece. We're going to go steady on this one, and when it's all cut out nicely, we'll decide what we're going to do towards that stage. At one time I was going to put clear packing on the back of this and inlay it all with resin so you get that stained glass effect, and I've done a couple of those in the past. Or we might just stick it to a board of the same thickness, and this one is 3.6mm plywood. In fact, one of these, we know it is, got a big sign there, 3.6mm plywood. So we're going to cut the top section on that, and we'll see how we feel towards the end of the project if we're actually going to cut out a backer to put it on. And we can still put our resin inside, but it just won't be a stained glass effect. So we'll see how we get on towards the end of the project. But for now, we'll put this one piece to one side and leave us with this one. Now normally on most of my projects I would put carbon paper underneath there and draw around it. Simple carbon paper, draw over the top, and your image is transferred. But on this one here, we're going to do it the old proper way, as we call it. Now you can put clear packing paper tape on there, spray your glue on, stick your template down, drill your pilot holes. Each section of these is going to have a hole drilled in to feed the blade through. Remember, we've got to cut these out, just leaving that framework behind. So for transferring the template on this one, we'll go back to the painter's tape. We'll line that with that tape, and then we'll spray on a bit of glue there and literally stick that down, and then we'll drill all those holes in. So I'll do that first, and then we'll come back and talk about what blade we're going to use. Okay, so we lined the 3.6mm plywood with that painter's tape. That just makes it easier when we come to peel it off. The tape comes off a lot easier than gluing that straight to the wood and trying to sand it off afterwards. And then obviously we sprayed our glue on. So we got the painter's tape there. We sprayed the glue on. We stuck it all down nicely. And you can see from that I've drilled those pilot holes in. So there are all your holes on the back. So each one of those we will feed the blade through and literally cut that section out. And hopefully we can just leave that little section in between. When you print off your templates, if they do look a bit delicate, and I've done it on this one, I just get a black Sharpie pen and basically just draw over the top. And you can make your black lines as thick as you like. If you're not too sure, you don't want them too thin that they're going to snap off and break. So I went over this with a marker pen, a Sharpie, just to widen those sections in between. Just make it a little bit easier for yourself. Okay, so that's all ready to cut out now. Now the choice of blade for me, I like to use what they call spiral blades. Now spiral blades, they're not for everybody. People either love or hate them, but they do cut in any direction. So we could just feed that into our first point there, into that hole, and cut that out just like that, without moving that wood at all, even though it's a small piece. That's just my personal choice. They will cut in any direction, and that's a pegas size number 3. The other two blades, on your common saw you get what they call a pin blade. Basically there's a pin at the top and the bottom, and that hooks on like so. With all your blades, smooth on the way down, rough on the way up. And you could use this on this one. You would have to drill bigger pilot holes, because you're trying to feed that blade in there, those pins are in the way. But we have enough room on this. That's probably your tightest one, and you might just get away with that. So you want a bigger hole to get your blade in. That's the only downside with those pin blades. And the professional boys, they use what they call the pinless blade. There's no pins at all, and your fancy saw has a little clamp at the top and at the bottom. Obviously the smaller the hole for that, the better. Personally myself, the bigger you can make that hole in there, the easier it is to feed the blade in, especially if you're feeding from underneath. And unfortunately with my little old Draper scroll saw in the corner there, I have to use these adapter clamps because my saw only takes pin blades. And there's an Allen key on the side there, so you have to undo that screw like so, feed your blade in, tighten it all up, and same at the bottom there once you fed it through the hole. And you've got to do the same thing for the next one and the next one and the next one, and it can just take the novelty out of it a little bit. So if you're going to purchase a saw, get one that takes pinless blades. Right, we are ready to go with this one. So we'll set up our Pegas number 3 spiral blade on the saw. We'll feed it through one of our pilot holes. Personally, I start from the middle and work outwards. Don't be tempted to come in and cut this out first, because you're just going to make it a bit awkward. The more you can hold on to, the more you can keep it together, the better it is. Okay, let's start cutting this one out. Right, we've got the Pegas number 3 spiral blade. Same with these and all, smooth on the way down, rough on the way up. We fed it through the pilot hole of our first cut, and we've got the tension at the back. With my saw, it's right at the back there. You want a nice ping ping sound. On your newer saws, they're right at the front there, and it takes a matter of seconds. So, but we use what we've got available to us. Okay, so we're all set up nicely. Let's just take our time. Remember, we've got to cut these out, and then we move on to the next one and the next one, hopefully leaving those little black lines in between. Okay, nice and steady and gentle on this one. Right, we've made it all the way round with that Pegas number 3 spiral blade, as you can see from there. The only downside with your spiral blades, you do tend to get what we call these little fuzzies, just here. Now they come off easy enough, and some woods are worse than other. So it takes a matter of minutes to go round, and you can clear them off just like that. What I like to do is get a bit of sandpaper, we roll it up into a little tube, and that will just let you get inside, give these all a nice tidying up. You notice some of these top ones, we've already removed the fuzzies here, and it didn't take long. But that is the only downside with spiral blades. But like I said previously, a straight blade will cut this out just as easy. Now I've decided to put the backer on this one, seeing we had that piece of wood ready to cut. Now if you wanted to make a stained glass effect, you can just get clear tape, pull a strip of that off, and basically stick it to the back of that, and then you can just fill that in with your resin. And it does work on little projects like this, and you can actually leave the tape on or peel it off afterwards, and it comes off nicely, and you'll have a nice stained glass window project, should I say. You might also notice there, I've just remembered, I'm going to cut off that section there. I just wasn't quite comfortable with that. When I looked at the image, the completed one, it just looks like he's got a hat on of some description. So I'm going to remove that. So when I cut it out, we'll just go around over the top of the head. Remember, these templates are just guidelines. You can modify them and change them as you want to, I suppose. Right, so we're going to go back to the original backer board. It's 3.6 millimeters exactly the same as one we used at top. Now we're going to sandwich these two together. You can put a bit of glue in the waist corners, stick that down, and basically we're going to cut the two pieces out together so we have the perfect match. Then we're going to use resin to glue that to that, and then come along and fill in each section so it will be solid instead of being stained glass. Another option, you could actually cut this out if you wanted to now on a single. Once it's cut out, place it onto the board and then go around this with a little washer with a pencil. That will just give you a slightly bigger backer. But I'm going to have mine fitting exactly the same. So we'll sandwich them two together. I'm just going to put a bit of tape at each corner. So we'll cut this out, and then when we come back, we'll peel our paper off, give it all a nice tidy up, and then we'll look into the staining and painting side of these remaining pieces. Right, so we cut round the angel with that backer taped to it. I do find with spiral blades, the thicker the wood, the better. So if you wanted to, you could stack 4 pieces of 3.6 together. It's what they call stack cutting. So you've got 4 sections of that, and you could cut out 4 angels all at the same time. I have actually cut up to 2 inches thick with a spiral blade. So 4 of those, that'd be no problem whatsoever. But anyway, we did it just for the backer section. Notice I've removed that the halo, should I say, up top of the head. And it's actually a perfect fit. First time I've actually done this, to be honest. Normally, like I say, I would put that on my backer and draw around that with a washer and a pencil just to make my backer a couple of millimeters larger. But on this one, it's an identical fit, so that's going to be fine for us, as you can see from there. We've still got the tidying up to do. I shall peel this label off there. We've got them little fuzzies again, look, you can just see from there, but it's minimal. There, gone, that's all it takes to rig around the full piece. I could do that now while we're talking to you. So we'll tidy that up, and then I'll come back in, and we've got to pull this tape off now. Don't start going crazy and getting excited and start peeling this off. This is not my normal painter's tape. I did go for a cheap version, but you can see for that, hopefully he says it's going to come off just as easy. So we'll remove all this tape. I'll go in with the paper, just give it tidy up, get rid of those little fuzzies on the back, and when we come back, that'll all be nicely ready for us to put some stain on. Right, that's enough sanding down for me. It probably took longer to remove that sticker from the back than it did to tidy the rest up. But it's all done now. And on the top section here, it's hard to see, but I've just gently rounded those off best we can, just so it's not as sharp as. And you'll know the difference between your top and the underside, because the back section, look, we've had a couple of little chip outs, but they won't affect us. And we've got most of those little fluffy bits. There's the odd little bit there. But remember, we're going to inlay this with resin, so hopefully that will all be covered up. And it just fits on there nicely. like I said previously, that's the first time I actually cut one out that fits the same size. Normally I go slightly a bit bigger. Right, colour wise, we're literally just going to stain this, only because it's quicker to do. You can obviously spray paint that, and I'll spray the back exactly the same. Remember, when this is all glued together with our resin, we'll have those two sides, so always do your side walls. And I just find that this stain, dark teak, there's literally just enough left in there to finish this off, will be ideal for this, because it will soak in nice and it won't be too much of a job. And it is just a simple case of popping it on. You just throw a bit on the backer board there. Now the reason why we do all the backer as well, even though you're not going to see any of it, sometimes your resins, if you don't put enough colour in them, they might be a bit transparent, and that would have been ideal if we were going to do a stained glass piece. But as we're going to fill it in as one solid colours, as a solid colour should I say, it won't do you any harm to put this on the back as well. And don't forget to do those side sections all the way round like so. And we'll do exactly the same with the top piece. Obviously you could have glued this all together and do it all afterwards, but I'd just rather do this, that way we can just make sure we get all into those side bits like so. This won't take us minutes to do, and I'll leave it for an hour. It'll be nice and dry, and then we can look into joining the two pieces together before the resin goes in. Okay, we'll come back when it's all nicely dry. Right, there's our two bits all nicely dried. So all we've got to basically do now is glue them together. Now you've got a couple of options here. Obviously you could use your wood glues, brush all that onto there. I've actually just tried with some glue, and I did a little video which I've now deleted. I did try with this wood glue here, and I started off with a little brush and I was brushing it on nicely, merrily away. By the time I'd done one wing, it had dried on. It had dried completely. So I've just spent 5 minutes scraping all that glue off. So a lesson learnt with that one. So I'm going to go back to my original idea, which was to use resin. Just going to stick this down with resin. We're going to leave it overnight. Come back tomorrow and basically we'll start filling these little bits in. Now you have two options, and I've done them both before. Normally I would mix my resin, get a brush, and you can just brush it onto the back of there. You've got plenty of time, there's no need to panic about things. And if you hold it in the right light, you can see where you've gone with the resin. We'll pop it on there, get it in place, put a weight on it, leave it overnight. But on this one, and I've done it once before and it worked fine, I am just going to cover all this back piece with resin. Just cover the full piece, just to see, and then make sure we get this the right way around. It doesn't actually fit if you have it the wrong way around. If you turn that over, fit it there, it doesn't quite match up, so you know which is the right way around. So on this occasion, I'm just going to cover the back piece. And when it dries, it will dry up and leave little patches in different places. That's fine, we want that. That will just give something for the resin to attach to. But ideally, if I just grab it, takes again, the resin will attach to the sides of the angel. So we've got no panic in there. First of all, we want to make sure we've got that the right way. That's fine. So that will go on as it is. I've just literally just got it on this board, just so I can lift it to one side afterwards. So the resin for me today is Vista 1 resin. Your resin's are two parts. You get A, your hardener. I'll just take it from over here. Quite big containers, these ones. So you have A, your resin, and B, your hardener. Now this is a 1-to-1 mix. So 1 part A to 1 part B by volume. Some resins will mix by weight, so you might need some digital scales. By volume, I just get these cheap plastic party cups. A, your resin, just mark it off. I've got up to 3 years. It's going to be far too much for this project, but a small amount. I've got some left over and I'll put it on another project. And we also got B, the same amount. So I'll mix these two together. Mixing wise, these plastic knife, fork, spoons are fantastic. They do have a nice little groove in there. And we will use these when we come to fill in the actual angel itself. But for now, we're just going to pop it on here, cover it all over with resin, and stick our top section down. We'll talk more about the resin when we come to fill it in. So just to quickly mix up a little batch, basically to stick the two pieces together. Okay, I'll mix a bit of resin and then we'll stick it down, and then when it's all nicely set, we can talk a bit more in detail about the resin and colour wise and filling this angel in. Right, we've mixed a little bit of resin up, and when we come to do the colours, we will mix it exactly the same. So that's plenty for what we want. So remember, it's just the way I do things. If there's a nice glue out there that does it just as easy, please let me know. So I said previously, you can basically get a bit on your brush and just brush that on like so. You have plenty of time. And if you get it in the right light, you can see that shine there, look. So you know exactly where you've been. So that's one of your options. That's the way I would normally do it. But for this one, I'm just going to put that to one side. And we're literally going to put the resin straight onto the back of this. Now we won't need a lot. So we're just going to put a little dab on. I have a little job that left over. We don't waste anything here. And we are literally just going to brush this. You can see straight away where your resin is. We want to go right up to the edge. The last thing we want is for it to leak out of the edges. So this will be a quicker way of doing it. And when it dries, like I say, it will leave little patches everywhere. And that's ideal. That just gives us something for the next resin to attach to. But I don't panic. It will attach to the side walls of the top section. And you've got plenty of time. It's not going to go anywhere. Just take your time. Just brush it. Make sure you get right to the edges. Any small holes, that resin, when you come to fill it in, we'll find it. Okay, I'll quickly do the rest of this, and then when we come back, we can attach the top bit. Right, there's all our resin nicely on. And like I said, if you get it in the light, you can just see there, look, that's enough there, hopefully, to glue this all down. So we're just going to pop this on top, get it somewhere near. Press that down, keeping your fingers out of the resin. Remember, with your resins, you want some nice gloves on. Please do not follow me by example. And some proper mask and plenty of ventilation. Right. I think that's going to be near enough for what we want. We'll pop another board on top, pop some weight on, and then we'll come back tomorrow and basically see what it looks like. And hopefully we can start filling this one in. Right, it's the next day. Everything's nice and set. You notice that back of there, look, you can just see dry sections where the resin's shrunk down. That's what we want. That basically just gives you something for the next layer of resin to stick to. Resin won't really stick to resin, so they say. But we do have side walls on here, remember, so that resin will stick to those side walls, no problem. But you can see the difference how it's all shrunk down. At this moment in time, it looks a bit of a mess. But once that other resin goes on top, we're going to cover all that. And hopefully it's sealed all the way around. And we shouldn't have any leakage. You never know. If you do have a leak, get rid of a bit of tape. You can put a bit of tape on there, stick it down. Once it's all nicely set and cured, pull your tape off afterwards. So I'm just going to pop it on that lid for now. Just keep it away from this lovely dusty worktop. Now the next stage for me, you know it's coming. I'm going to spray a bit of varnish on this. Just to, for me personally, it just gives a little bit of a shine on the remaining plywood you can see there. Don't put your resin in and then spray it afterwards. I have tried that, and I've heard of other folk trying it, and it can make your resin go a bit cloudy. Not all the time, but certain ones. So for me personally, we spray it all first. A bit of a shine, and also it's going to help seal that back just a little bit more to stop any bubbles There again, you don't get a lot on these kind of little projects, so just a little 151, nothing too great. And it'll also darken that plywood down, like so. 2 or 3 coats of that is all we need. I'll take it outside, not forgetting to do those side walls all the way around. 2 or 3 coats. When we come back, we will be ready to fill this one in. Right, we've sprayed a bit of lacquer on, varnish, and that's just enough to say we've had a go. We could have probably gone a bit more, but for a little project like this, that's going to be plenty. Right, same again with our resins. Remember, A, your resin, mix with B, your hardener. By volume this one, so same amount of each. Some resins are 3 to 1, 2 to 1. This is 1 to 1, so 1 part A to 1 part B. If it's 2 to 1, twice as much of A to 1 part B. If it's 3 to 1, 3 times, and you know the story there. So I mix it again off camera, and then for colour wise, for the white of the dress, we're going to call it, just acrylic paints, and I've got some metallic gold painter's touch. I have never put this in resin before, seriously, so I will mix some of this. If it looks nice, we'll fill the wings in with this. If it doesn't make an appearance, you know that didn't work. Okay, remember again, get your gloves on, get a nice mask and plenty of ventilation. Right, we'll mix up our first little batch, pop some white in, and then we'll start filling the dress in there, and hopefully it's sealed up. Right, so we've mixed our first batch of resin up. Don't be concerned about the colour of that. If this was left for a couple of minutes, it would eventually clear up. But we're not too bothered about that, because we are just going to basically put our paints inside. They do say 10% of whatever amount you're mixing with your paints. I personally just put up some in, give it a mix round, and if it's not strong, I do like a nice solid colour, and not as much as that, excuse me. That's a funny looking white, but anyway, we'll give it a mix round. And if you feel you want a bit more in, we'll pop a bit more in. Don't know why that's so runny, to be honest. Right, that's definitely left to do on that one. So I do like nice solid colours, as I just mentioned. What we do with these knife and forks, you've got that nice scoop on the side, look, you scoop it out, put some into your project like so. So we'll have a quick look. Notice I've kept it on that board there. So that's our first one gone in. When you do it, get yourself a little cocktail stick of some description, like so, and you can just help that on its way. We won't be far off nearly the top of this when they're done. As your resins cure, they do go a bit concave. They will shrink down a little bit, so be conscious of that. So I'm okay with that white. We'll leave that as it is, and if you just top these up as we go along. Okay, we'll go, make sure we get the right, yep, that wants to go in there. The last thing we want is go and fill in where the little hands are and stuff. Okay, we'll speed things up, fill all this in. Not forgetting the gold for the wings here. That may materialise, it may not, but I'll continue and just fill this one in. Right, once you've got your first colour in, be hard to see on here, but there is little bubbles, just see around there. So what we do, you get yourself a lighter, a small one like this, and just go over the top, and all those little bubbles will disappear, like so. Or there is these other types. Just turn it on, just keep that moving like so, and you'll see now, hopefully, all them bubbles have gone. And I'll do that a couple of times as we continue to fill this in. Right, let's go on to the next colour and carry on filling in. Right, there's our body all done. It's actually the next day. This is 24 hours later. The only reason being, if you remember our painter's touch metallic gold, we were going to incorporate that into the wings. Now, I wasn't too sure about it, and I've never used it before, so I basically put some into a Pringles lid. They make nice little moulds, and that was it. I didn't like the colour of that at all. That's nasty, is that one. So we've done away with that idea. So trial and error, every day is a learning day, so we're certainly not going to use that. Now, it's been suggested to me, as it's a Christmas decoration, by the way, this angel, go down and get some glitter. So I've just nipped downtown. It cost me £1 for a couple of these brass. I went for gold, but they didn't have any brass glitter. Now, I've done a bit of research. They do say once you mix it in with the resin, it will sink to the bottom. So we've got a couple of options. We can either fill this in with the glitter first, just leave enough to put a layer of resin over the top, or we could pour some clear resin in there, leave it for a couple of hours or more, and then top it up with the glitter. That way it's not going to sink so far down. But these are literally about 3 to 4 millimeters, or 3.6 if you remember rightly, 3.6. So I'm going to take a chance and mix this in with our resin. And then we're going to get our little scoop and fill each one in as it is. If it sinks to the bottom, it doesn't matter as long as it covers that wood at the back. Obviously, they do say also you could mix it in the resin, let it sit for a while until it starts stiffening up. Personally, I think that would be a challenge for us, because we have these small sections to fill in. But the rest of that is nice and solid. So I'll mix up a batch of resin again. Back to the resin, A and B. We know the procedure with that. And I'm just going to mix some of this glitter. I have never ever used glitter in a resin before, so that's going to be another first for me. Right, let's mix them up. Right, so we've mixed a nice piece of resin up there, hopefully. Remember, with your resin, that looks a bit cloudy, but that's only because I'm mixing and we're moving on with the project. You want to let that stand for a little while, then my bubbles will become a lot clearer. But we've got no panic about that, hopefully. So there's our resin, there is our glitter. This is the first, remember. No doubt this will end up everywhere. And I'm literally going to put it in here. I've no idea how much to put in. It's trial and error. We're going to give that a mix around. Well, it's definitely glittery. I'll put some more in there. It doesn't matter, does it? If it goes wrong, it goes wrong. Oh, that's definitely nice and glittery. I don't know if you can see that through the camera. When I film everything off my mobile phone, and it's actually hung up with a piece of shoelace. So, all technical stuff here. I'm even going to put a bit more in there, yeah. Right, I'm going to make that do. We'll take our chance from there. Right, nicely mixed up. We'll pop a bit in, just start filling these in, then we'll speed things up. Remember, we'll still go over with the lighter, just to help with any bubbles. Here we go then, now or never. Right, there's all our glittered resin gone in. So if you can see that, it's definitely got that cloudiness on top, look, you can just see there. So we're going to come in with our lighter, and hopefully that will remove all that. And I'll go over this again a couple of minutes. It could be the glitter inside that's making that. We don't normally get it as bad as that, do we? That will help remove all those bubbles. Just about sitting there. Hopefully that'll be a lot better when it's all nicely cured. But like I say, I will go over it again with the lighter. Now we're just going to leave it. I just have these little milk bottle tops to one side for 24 hours. Cover it over. Any dust or flies will find it. Okay, we'll come back in 24 hours and see what our first time using glitter looks like. Right, that's it. This little project is finished. Now it's roughly 24 hours later. Everything is nicely set, as you can see. I'm not 100% sure about that glitter in there. That was the first time for me. And you can see a lot of it has sunk down that we thought would happen, and some is still floating on the top there. But it's all solid, and it is what it is. Maybe gold glitter would have looked better, or even silver. But we've got it in there now, so we're going to have to stay with it, aren't we? Okay, we try these things, and I'm okay with it. It's near enough what we need for this little angel decoration. She stands at 7 inches by 7 inches across. We cut it out on 3.6mm plywood for the top, and we did the same for the back section there, and then we glued them together with resin. That worked fine. We had no issues, no leakages. Remember, for me personally, I just use a Pegas number 3 spiral blade, and there's my adapters at the top and the bottom. I keep saying it, if you are going to purchase a scroll saw, get one that takes pinless blades. Will save you a lot of trouble with those adapters. Then I've just come in with a dark teak, literally just to cover both pieces, and you can see why we cover the back section as well, just in case that wood can come through, and that's worked out fine. So we try our different things, and then obviously we come in with the Vista One resin to mix our colours with, and the colours were literally just cheap acrylic paints, and they work fine for me. I do like a nice solid colour, and before the resin went in, we just sprayed a bit of 151 for what it was worth. There wasn't a lot of wood showing, but it's just enough to say we've finished it off. And then for those wings, just a bit of bronze glitter there. Like I say, I think the gold might have stood out better, or even silver, but it's still a little project. You know, we've learnt today about the glitter side of things anyway. But the body itself, that's all nice and solid. You can't go wrong with the acrylics. Remember, there's powders, inks, dyes. You can mix all sorts with your resin to get a colour. I just find acrylic paint works excellent. And there's our glitter. Well, that's certainly something different, isn't it? And that's it. This little project is finished. Thank you very much for watching.